All right, hello everyone. My name is Janet Forrest. I'm one of the adult program coordinators at the Nantucket Athenaeum, along with my colleague Daniel Griffin, who's on the call acting as support. In addition to working at the library, I'm also a certified professional life coach. And this is the second of 3 workshops on creating your off-season routine. I'm going to get my PowerPoint up and going. Here we are. So thank you to those who were here last week, who came back, and welcome to those who are attending for the first time. Let's see here. Okay, we are up and running. So last week we talked about creating structure and accountability. That video is available on our YouTube channel. This week we're going to talk about finding purpose and staying focused. What we're going to talk about tonight is identifying and clarifying your purpose, understanding and prioritizing your values, getting engaged and staying motivated, noticing and reducing distractions, and incorporating your purpose into your routine. What is your purpose? Why do you wake up in the morning? What is your #1 priority? Who is important to you? These are just a couple questions to ask yourself if you're feeling just a lack of a purpose. And this isn't, I mean, there are people out there that are lucky enough to wake up in the morning and know exactly what their purpose is and hold on to it for a very long time. But for many of us, our lives change, things happen, and our priorities and purpose will change as well. This is a very big picture, philosophical way of looking at it. So if this feels a little daunting for you at the moment, another way to think about this is, what is your goal or what is your project? So think about what's something you could put in front of you now, or through the off season, to just keep your eye on the prize and keep you focused on something. And it's been overstated, but we are living in very unusual and uncertain times. So not having that certainty can make it really difficult to plan. And when it's difficult to plan, it can be really difficult to find and stick to a purpose. But having a goal or having a project might be something that's a little more accessible. Here's a few examples. It might be developing a new hobby. Maybe it's knitting or woodworking, or a new craft. You might decide to educate yourself in some way, maybe learn a second language or learn an online, a technological tool, maybe like Photoshop or Excel. There's lots of resources through the library to do that. It could be building something in your home, or even just building a business, building a side gig. And also accomplishing a project. I know when the stay-at-home order kicked in, a lot of people were accomplishing the project of decluttering their basement and closets and their house. So it might be just a project that's been on your list for a while, and you're now in a position to tackle. Another way to think about what your purpose is and finding a goal is to think about what your values are and do a value assessment, identifying your priorities. So what are your values? And they're different for everyone, but here's a very short list: honesty, community service, financial security, personal relationships, solitude, physical health, spontaneity, humor, order, and structure. And you might notice in this list, you might see 2 that are opposing. So spontaneity and versus order and structure. Neither of those is better than the other, but we all just have different set of values. So understanding what your personal values are. And to take that a step further, you want to think about how well you're living your values. So you might have very clear values, but if you're not living them, it can be very stressful, and you can feel just ill at ease in your life. So this is a tool I use with my clients sometimes, and I can send this to everyone in an email. And what it is a value assessment. So it's really quite simple, but it's worth spending some time on. In this first column on the left, you have a whole list of values. It's not exhaustive, and you can always add your own. But you can see a whole bunch of values right here. Then in the next column, what you have is, what you're going to do is rate that value based on the importance that it holds in your life. So you're going to do it on a scale of 1 to 10. When I send this to you, it's actually a Word document, and all these ones are drop downs. So you can change that to 1 through 10. So 1 being not at all, 10 being highly important. So you'll look at this list and decide, okay, in my life, how important is that value to me? And you want to rate it. And then what you'll do is go over to this third column, and you're going to rate how well you are taking action on that value, how well you are walking the talk when it comes to that value. And the final step is to go through each one and compare column 1 to column 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get my little pen thing here. So let's say you rated connecting to others as a 9. You've rated that very highly. That's very important to you. But when you think about your day-to-day life, you're spending a lot of time at home, you're not really seeing anyone, you're not really connecting anyone, you might say, well, I'm living it a 3. So you might feel lonely, you might feel a little sad, you might feel some grief over not connecting with others. So just acknowledging the fact that, wow, I have this value and yet I'm not living it. So that's basically how this exercise would work. Nope. And when people are feeling, I guess negative is kind of a big word, but if you're not feeling right, you're feeling a lot of chaos, or you're feeling stressed or some anxiety, a lot of times that the root of that is your values are being challenged. So think about in what way your values might be challenged. So it could be your current circumstances. As I said before, if you're someone that values order and structure, right now things are kind of chaotic and it's really difficult to plan. So it makes sense that that value of having order and certainty is being challenged. It might come from family and friends. So you might value, as I used on the previous page, connecting with people, but your family might be far away and you don't talk to them very often, or your friends may have made life changes and you don't see them as often. So that might be that value of feeling connected is being challenged with your family and friends. Another place where your values might be challenged is at work. And I'm someone that likes working autonomously. So having a lot of autonomy. And so working remotely, as much as I love my colleagues and I like working with other people and being around other people, I'm very much someone who wants to be given a project, sent away, and I'll come back when it's done and you can tell me what you think. But if you're someone that very much likes to work on a team, and you're in a position where you're at home alone on your laptop and you're not feeling that day-to-day connection of running into people in the kitchen or having lunch together or just being in the same office space, that might be a value that's being challenged right now for you. And going back to our overall purpose of talking about routines, the actions and the habits that you have developed that you're taking weekly, take a hard look at them and see if they're in line with your values. So you might be someone who says, I value physical exercise and physical health, but the habits you developed is staying home and sitting down and not eating as well as you have been. So you've developed these habits that aren't in line with your values. So how do you shift those actions and habits and create a routine that's in line with your values? So we've talked a little bit about purpose and goals and values, and that can be great in getting started. But you also want to, that there's that initial boost of like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And then you hit that rut of really getting engaged and staying focused. So first we're going to talk about engagement, staying engaged and getting motivated. And I touched on this last week, so I'm going to delve into it a little bit deeper. One of the things I got trained in and I work with clients on is energy leadership. And even if you haven't heard of this, it's something everyone's experienced. And the example I like to use is when you're at a party back a million years ago when we could get into social gatherings and you're all there and everyone's kind of talking and all of a sudden the door opens and who walks in but anabolic Al. And suddenly the beer tastes better and the music's cooler and everyone's having a great time and you all just want to lean in and your energy shifts up. That's anabolic energy. It's associated with joy and connection and synergy and seeing opportunity and a sense of peace and calmness and all those quote unquote positive energies. And then at that same party, about 20 minutes later, the catabolic Carla walks in, and her dog ran away and her cat's sick again and her mom's in the hospital and she lost her job. And it's just like you feel that energy constricting, and there's that kind of the lowering of the oxygen in the room. And so that's catabolic energy, and it's associated with stress and anxiety and conflict and anger and feeling at the mercy of your circumstances. So that's the way a lot of people experience it, and we can be influenced by other people's energy. But the other thing is we can empower ourselves to shift our energy and influence others and influence ourselves, shift our own energy. So it's really easy to think of catabolic energy, oh, that's really bad, I don't want any of that. And anabolic energy, oh yes, give me all that, I don't want anything else. But the better way to think about this is just they both exist and they serve different purposes. So if my house is burning down and I call the fire department, I don't want them to have a Zen response of, well, everything happens for a reason and what's the lesson in this? No, what I want is a catabolic response where they're filled with cortisol, they jump in their truck, they come over here and they take care of the emergency. So that's a catabolic response that serves me well. Or if you want to think of something like the civil rights movement, where that was a catabolic movement that required a lot of fighting and a lot of anger and conflict, but it led to a really positive result for everyone. And thinking about anabolic energy, yes, it can have all these quote unquote positive aspects to it, but what can happen when someone's feeling very anabolic all the time, and we've all kind of met those people, they sort of just float above, and there can sometimes be a disconnect. So if you've seen a very good friend who just went on vacation, they come back and they're totally revitalized and they're feeling refreshed and they're just on top of the world, and they walk back into their workplace where everyone's been covering for them for the last 5 days and they're feeling stressed out. They can walk in and be like, hey, everybody, how's it going? And everyone just is like, get out of the room. So there can be that disconnect. So having a lot of anabolic energy, you need to remember to meet people where they're at. So with that in mind, I could, if you're curious about this, email me. There's 7 energy levels. I could talk about this for days, but that's kind of the overall explanation of energy leadership. So let's talk about how this impacts taking new actions and creating new habits. So what we have here, I touched on this last week, is an energy action model. And what this will help you with is you can kind of plot new actions and new routines on this chart and better understand your engagement level and why you may or may not be fully engaged, and what you can do differently. So over here, we have what I just discussed, your energy profile. So are you feeling more catabolic or are you feeling more anabolic? And down here, so this is how you're feeling going into a situation. And then down here, you have your stimulus response. So is your response to this new action you're taking detracting from the energy you're already feeling, or is it enhancing it, expanding it, making it more anabolic? So for example, let's say you have someone who knows they should be exercising more and they want to implement more physical exercise in their routine, but they may be feeling not optimum physical health. They may be feeling fearful that this won't work. They might feel a fear of the unknown. They're not sure how they're going to approach this or what the result will be. And they are experiencing a lot of anxiety and stress over this, and they're just having a hard time getting engaged. And they run into an acquaintance who says, oh, I heard you want to start exercising. I go to a yoga class Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. and it's 90 minutes. It's amazing. You'll love it. Why don't you come? That might be a bit daunting for that person. That might be something that detracts from the energy they're already feeling. So their engagement in that circumstance might be quite low. So I'm just going to number these boxes real quickly. Let's see. Oops, I have to change my color. So that would be box 1. Let's see if I can get a different color. There we go. So that's box one. Now over here you have box two. So let's say you have that same person who's feeling a lot of trepidation about starting physical exercise. And instead of running into this person, they run into another person, a friend that they know and they trust. And that friend says, hey, the weather's supposed to be spectacular on Friday morning. I'm going to go for a walk in the state forest. I could pick you up and we could go together. Let's plan to walk for about 20 minutes. And if you're not feeling it and you're not feeling great at any moment, let me know and we'll turn around, we'll go back to the car. So in that case, that might be a little bit more achievable. Their engagement won't necessarily be 100%. It's limited in that they're committing to this this one exercise, and it's conditional. It's conditional on their friend being there and having known there's no unknown variables. They have a sense of what they're getting into. So while they're not 100% bought in, that's going to enhance their energy. That's going to make them a little bit more, feel a little bit more anabolic about the task at hand. Now up here, you have box number three. So let's say it's a completely different person. They are in peak physical health. They're excited and they actually want to challenge themselves more. They're looking for a new opportunity. They're excited to meet new people and see new things. And they're just excited to be alive in the morning. Now that person gets a call from their friend that they walk with weekly, and the friend says, hey, are we going to do our normal walk on Friday at Sanford Farm? I'm looking forward to it. Now this is a person who's looking for something new. They're looking for something they haven't done before. So yes, this is doable. Yes, they could go for that walk. It's not going to be hard. They know what they're getting into, but it's kind of detracting from their anabolic energy that they're feeling of like, I want to get out there and I want to do something different. So that's actually going to detract from their energy. Over here, you have box four. Now, let's say that same person who's super excited about doing something new, they get a call from a different person and said, hey, I heard you're looking for something new. The land bank just opened a new trail. I've never seen it before. How do we spend a couple hours just wandering around and getting lost and seeing what we find? Now, that's exactly what this person's looking for. And that's actually going to enhance their energy. So their engagement level will be sky high. So that's essentially how this works. And you could, there's all different variables. That was kind of a very clean example. But start to think of how you might use this in your own development of a routine is how are you feeling? If you're feeling a little fearful and a little bit of anxiety about starting something new, then you might want to focus on doing something that's really achievable and not so scary. And if you're feeling that anabolic energy, that level of creativity and connection, think about what you can do that's going to further enhance that as opposed to detract from that. I am going to pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions. Does anyone have any questions about that so far? No? Okay. Jump in any time. So let's go back to my PowerPoint if I can. Let's see. And I can't always see the panelist thing. So if you have a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself and jump in. Okay. Oops, what did I do? There we go. So following up on that, assessing your engagement, here's some questions to ask yourself. How much choice do I have in this situation? That can be really powerful. When you constantly live your life saying, well, I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do that, that's someone who's feeling at the mercy of their circumstances, and everything, even if it's not that hard, is going to feel like a chore. So start to think about what choice you have in this situation. And lots of times you have more choice than you think. And something I tell people that initially seems like a silly exercise, but it can be really effective, is stop using should and have to and start saying, I choose. So it's not, I have to go to the grocery store because I don't have food in the house. It's, I choose to go to the grocery store because I want to eat tonight. And you'll start to notice a small shift in how you feel about what you're doing. Also ask, how do I benefit from this? So it might seem like a lot of work. It might be something you're not super jazzed about, but if you can know what you're going to how you're going to benefit from it, it can be really helpful. And ask yourself, I touched on this before, do I have the skills and the knowledge and skills to accomplish this? So lots of times that can be a barrier for people if they're doing something that they're just not sure if they'll succeed, or if they know they have the resources and the know-how. That can be a huge barrier. So think about, do you have the knowledge and skills? And lots of times it's just, a search online or asking a friend, and then you have what you need. And then asking, what is my overall energy? So knowing your overall energy going into a situation will help you decide how much you want to take on and what you want to do. Okay, now we're going to talk about some energy detractors. So this is different categories that will detract from your energy. And lots of times people feel themselves going off the rails. They feel themselves getting distracted. And it can be really hard to drill down and understand what exactly is distracting you. And when you can do that, you're in a position to either just acknowledge it's a distraction and live with it, or hopefully do something about it. And there's 6 different categories. The first one is mental. So mental detractors and enhancers. This has to do with how much brain power is available to you at any given moment. How focused are you? How you process your thoughts, not so much what you're thinking about, but how well can you process your thoughts, and the ability to focus, think clearly, and make decisions and feel present. Detractors to a mental energy can be stress, multitasking. There's lots of research that's been done showing that multitasking isn't as efficient. As much as I love doing it, and I still do, it's not the best way to work. And doing challenging tasks. When the library started open and the staff went back in the building, it was the circ department, and I know Daniel could speak to this personally. What the feedback we got was, wow, I'm just exhausted at the end of the day. And they were actually working shorter days, but what was happening is their job, checking books in and out, had fundamentally changed. So it wasn't a matter of picking the books up, putting them back on the shelf, and when someone asked, they took them off the shelf and checked them out. They had to take them in, quarantine the books. They still have to clean them. They have to wrap them. So everything they do is so different that it makes sense at the end of the day, the staff is using up so much more mental energy. And at the end of the day, they're just exhausted. So keep that in mind if you're creating a new routine and you're going to be doing something new. Just understand it may take more mental energy, and it may just be a little bit harder. Things that can enhance your mental energy is having a clear plan, focusing on the present task instead of multitasking, and minimizing distractions. Really, I encourage you to focus on having a clear plan, because what this can do is it'll minimize decisions. So if you say, I want to spend more time reading, at the beginning of the week, decide how many times you're going to read, or how much time you're going to spend reading, what you're going to read, and when you're going to do it. Because having that clear plan will take away the idea of like, well, I could do it in the morning, but maybe I'll do it in the afternoon. And I think I'll read the paper, or should it be a magazine, or should I start that new book? And then all of a sudden it's so overwhelming and you've gotten off track. So having a clear plan can be really important when you're starting a routine. Emotional. How your feelings impact your potential. This is your awareness and understanding of your emotions, your ability to control your emotions, and your freedom to express your emotions. So things that can be emotional detractors are fear, suppressing emotions, feeling unsafe or not allowed to express your emotions. So if you're in a relationship or a work environment or a home environment where you don't feel safe, or you don't feel like you can just express what emotions you're having, not necessarily act on them, but express the emotions you're having, that can be really, really difficult. Enhancers for this could be asking, what do I feel, and acknowledging it. I think maybe yesterday, the day before, a friend of mine posted on Facebook that she is a parent. She has 2 boys, and she said everywhere everyone's saying, well, help your kids feel really positive, help them see the positive things of what we're going through right now. And she said, that's all well and good, but I don't want to minimize the other feelings my son is having. If he's feeling sad, if he's feeling upset or angry, that's a real valid feeling. And it's important to acknowledge that and not try to minimize what people are feeling. So, so something that you can do to help yourself emotionally is just ask, what am I feeling? And whatever it is, allow yourself to feel it. Physical detractors and enhancers. So this is your body up to the task at hand, and your physical ability to take action on your goals. So detractors can be a lack of sleep, pain, malnutrition, and illness. And enhancers can be exercise, healthy habits, adequate sleep, and nutrition. Now, this might be a situation where there could be a fix. So if you're feeling tired, you could take a nap. That might fix that detractor of feeling tired. But it might be a situation where there's no easy fix. You might have a chronic condition. And just like I talked about in the mental enhancers and detractors, sometimes just acknowledging the challenge can make it better, because it can be really easy to be like, well, I should be able to do this. I should be able to focus. I should be able to push through this. But the fact is, if you're feeling pain or you're feeling hungry or you're feeling tired, it's going to be much harder to do stuff. So maybe you can't fix that right away. And just saying to yourself, okay, I'm feeling this way. This is going to be a little harder. I'm going to be a little less productive, and that's okay. What it'll do is help you make really achievable, manageable goals for yourself, instead of setting your expectations too high and then falling short. Environmental, this can be important. So do your surroundings support your work? And are you creating a setting that's conducive to your present work or routine? And detractors for this can be noise, bad lighting, an uncomfortable chair or desk, and just general ambiance that isn't working for you. Enhancers can be finding a comfortable climate, so it's not too hot, it's not too cold, having adequate light, and having quiet. So there's all types of environmental factors that will play into this. And it's different for everyone. So I know people that, not so much anymore, but I know people that prefer to go to a coffee shop and having that kind of white noise in the background while they do their work. And there's other people that need absolute silence while they work. So understanding what environment works for you is going to be helpful for your whatever task you're working on. Social. So this has to do with how your relationships are affecting your purpose, your routine, your life, your ability to influence your relationships, and being able to and being influenced by your relationships, what impact they're having on you, and both of this, thinking about what impact this is having on you reaching your goals and your potential. Last week I talked about accountability, so that's where this social aspect might come in. So detractors for this can be fighting with friends or family, feeling lonely, and feeling unsupported. So it could be both ends of the spectrum. It could be you have so many people in your life and there's a lot of conflict, or it could be a total absence of social interaction. You're feeling lonely and unsupported. Enhancers for this can be surrounding yourself with like-minded people, feeling a sense of community, and feeling support. And in our case, talking about routines, supportive accountability. So it's not, when you look for that accountability, you look for that social support, you want to find something that's going to work for you, that level of accountability that's going to work for you. And actually, going back on that woman, this is something to think about when you are implementing a routine. So if you live in a house with 3 other people, whether it's spouses or kids or roommates or whatever, you might want to take this into account as you're setting up your routine. So if you decide you're going to go to bed a little bit earlier and your partner or roommate says, oh, I'm going to stay up another hour and watch TV, it can be tempting to be like, oh, I want to do that too. So if you're someone that's highly influenced by if you're influenced by the people around you, you may want to get them on board, or at least let them know what you're trying to do so they can be supportive. And the final factor area for detractors and enhancers is spiritual. So this could be related to religion, but not necessarily. Mostly what it has to do is feeling a sense of meaning and purpose, and the ability to feel purpose in your life and work. And it's feeling connected and committed to the present moment. So detractors, spiritual detractors can be boredom, feeling lost, and feeling a lack of purpose. So at a time like this, when so much has changed and plans have changed and things that we might have done in the past might not be available to us right now, that can be a huge spiritual detractor. Enhancers can be seeing your purpose, finding meaning in your life, your work, and your routine. And at the beginning, I talked about finding purpose. And even last week when I said, find your routine, understand what you're trying to accomplish with your routine, because when you know what you're trying to achieve, you're going to create a routine that's going to be more engaging, you're going to stick to. And so I'm going to wrap up with just going full circle and going back to, okay, you're trying to put your routine, oops, sorry, there's a typo in there. So you're trying to put together your routine for yourself. Here's some things to think about is, what do you need more of in your routine? What do you need? And same typo, what do you need less of in your routine as you're putting it together? And just a quick call to action. What is one thing you can work on this week? I talked about last week, and actually through this workshop, being realistic and being honest with yourself about what you can get done. So what I like to ask people often is, what is one thing you can work on? And don't think about revamping your entire life, but what's one thing you could focus on this week? So that is my workshop for tonight. I'm going to stop and we can have a discussion. You can ask some questions, but I want to give you a heads up for next week that it's going to be the final of the 3 workshops. And next week, we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles, getting unstuck, and getting back on track. So with that, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to stop my share. There we go. And I'm back. So give me some feedback. What are people thinking about? What questions do you have? And you may have to unmute yourself. Susan, yeah? She had a question. Oh, I can't hear you, Susan. Hold on one second. I'm going to unmute you. There we go. Okay. Maybe not. Susan, are you saying something? I can't hear you. Maybe not. Okay, I said in the chat. Oh, someone asked, is last week's session available to watch? Yes, it is. And I can put that in the chat. So I'll put that in the chat for you. And if you were signed up for last week, you should have gotten it in your email. Yes, Susan, I can hear you. Did you have a question?
No, I just think I think sometimes we just tend to be scattered, and and so I really like the idea that what you finished with was just one thing to work on this week, and then you can add in your sense of meaning and purpose, and liked how we kind of end up everything, because this will be really good to work on. It just makes it easy. So thank you. For me, it's exercise. So
great. Okay, I am putting that's the link I just put in chat. That's the link to last week's workshop. Okay. Anne, did you have a question or a thought?
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I just really like those 6 categories. It helps put a lot of the things that I've been feeling that have felt very fragmented and disconnected. It puts them in a different context for me to think about them. And I think it's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and lots of times they can compound on each other. So, if you don't have an environment where you can work productively, and your lighting's bad, that might also lead to like physical health of like, oh, I just also feel kind of crappy, and it can snowball. So understanding, like picking it away is like, what is it? And when you get really specific, it's like, oh, I mean, when I started working from home, I'd always worked at the library part-time and I worked from home part-time. And at the library, I'm bouncing around from the Great Hall down to the lower level and all over the place. And at home, I would sit, but I'd sit at the kitchen table, I'd sit at the couch, I'd sit over here. And all of a sudden, I was only working from home and I was only sitting in one spot. And within 2 weeks, I was having lots of back pain. And actually, thanks to Rachel Dixon, who also does a program with us, she did a program on posture. And now I'm sitting up because I'm saying it. But I realized I had my laptop and I was sitting like this. So I managed to get a new desk. I got a comfortable chair. I got a keyboard. So my elbows and arms are down where they should be. And my dad built me a little platform because he's at home doing nothing. So he shipped me a platform for my laptop. So just fixing my posture made it so much easier to sit at my desk for longer periods of time and be able to focus longer. So understanding what's going on and which area you're struggling in can be really, really helpful and make it much easier to at least acknowledge and if not fix the problem. Did anyone have any other thoughts or comments? What did you like best? What can I talk about next? Is there anything specifically that would be helpful for me to cover next week that you're struggling with? No? Okay.
No, I think just trying to get going on something that you really don't want to do. A project that you need to do, but you'll do anything to avoid it. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about next week a little bit. And so, that's always, you can kind of talk yourself mentally through some of this, but then actually putting it in action can be a challenge, I think, or for me anyhow.
Yeah, and what can be helpful there, if it's something you kind of have to do and it has to get done, and you're committed to getting it done. Something that can be helpful is just, and I'll go into more detail next week, but just finding some place to start. Because a lot of people, that's where they get hung up. They just can't even start. And it sits below the proverbial bed and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly it's this monster. And you're afraid to even look at it. So lots of times if you can find like just one way to start and one step to take, sometimes that's enough to just get you over the hump and get you a little bit more motivated. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Great. Well, I'm going to wrap up then. This will be available on YouTube. I'm going to edit it just a tiny bit, but it'll be available on YouTube. And I have everyone's email address, so I'll go ahead and email you my PowerPoint so you have it in case you want to reference it. And you'll, of course, have my email, so you can email me with questions. And I hope you can make it next week. You can go ahead and sign up on our website. It's the same time, same day next week. And we'll be talking about overcoming obstacles and getting unstuck. So thank you everyone so much for coming. And good luck with your routines, and check back in and let me know how you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.